I tell people all the time, if this came in a pill, I'd just sell you pills. It would be super easy for me. I wouldn't have to write your workouts or, deal with your anxiety. I just hand you a pill. It's never going to work that way.
If you've been watching, you know that I take my ingredients very seriously, but there are 3 companies that I have found that I absolutely love. Check the description for discount codes. Hello, welcome to my show. My name is Adrian. Today I have with me Mark Valenti. He is a StrongFirst certified trainer, a former Highland competitor. Did I get that right?
Highland Games, professional
Highland Games
competitor. Yes.
competitor, and he's lifted the Husafell stone. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that was perfect.
And he's been carnivore since 2017.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming to my show.
Yeah, this is great. I've been, like I said, before we were talking, before the camera started rolling, I've been researching you and researching the show, and it's just very cool stuff. I love talking about carnivore and all the things that go with it.
Well, I'm really excited to dig into this with you today because one of the things you've said in an interview recently is the importance of losing fat and getting strong versus losing weight. And this is a lesson I and so many people across the country who have had to learn the hard way. But it looks like you've kind of been athletic your whole life. Could you tell us a little bit about your strong background?
Yeah, so I did all the normal sports growing up. Pretty much everything: wrestling, football, soccer, track and field, the whole 9 yards. And then when I was towards the end of my high school career, I got into Highland Games. So Highland Games is really this crazy sport where they have um, an amateur circuit, a professional circuit, and a master circuit. And I went through the amateur ranks and then became a professional. And it was um, it was the greatest summer job you could ever have. So I got to travel all over the world and compete every weekend with my buddies. So it was like getting paid to go on a road trip with your friends every weekend. And for people who aren't familiar with it, Highland Games is a sport that involves the throwing events. So you probably have seen it on TV. We wear kilts. You throw the thing that looks like a telephone pole, which is called a caber. The shot put, the hammer throw, the weight throw. So it's just a series of events, and there's competitions all over the world, and the pro class gets paid for it. So it was really nice.
Wow. That sounds like something that'd be a lot of fun to watch. Is that
Yeah.
something that still exists?
Yeah, they've been around since the 800s, and the to tell you the truth, right now the men's pro circuit is kind of on the decline, where the women's pro circuit is really doing well, and those women are super entertaining.
I saw a woman recently lift the Husafell stone. Am I saying it wrong?
No,
I'm
no,
pretty sure that's what I saw, and it's like a 400-pound,
yep,
418-pound stone.
yep, that's it. You have to pick it up, and to pick it up, it's in Iceland, so uh, we went over to Iceland, and we were there for a Highland Games competition, and took a day trip up to Husafell, and it's on the side of a glacier next to this ancient church. And the idea is you pick this stone up, and then you're supposed to carry it around this ancient goat pen that's made out of river stones. So you pick it up and you try to carry it as far as you can. And if you carry it all the way around the pen, you get the term full sturker, which means fully strong. I was only to get it to about, I picked it up and maybe got about halfway around. But
Wow,
it's pretty amazing trip in general.
wow. Is there someone that sits there and guards the rock so nobody steals it?
Iceland is an amazing place. I just can't say enough cool things about Iceland. It's just, it was not what I expected. And when we got there, matter of fact, when we got there, the stone always rests in the same spot, but they were actually holding Iceland's strongest man that week. So I landed on a Thursday, and they had the stone in Reykjavik, which is like 3 hours south of Husafell, for the competition. So these guys, these incredible strongman athletes were competing. That was one of the events, was the Husafell carry, and they heard that I was coming to make an attempt. So these guys actually, as soon as the competition was done, loaded this stone up and drove it all the way north and put it down next to the pen just because they heard some crazy American was going to come and try to lift it. And I mean, who am I? I was just some guy who was coming to do it. And they heard that I was coming and went through the process of getting it back up there just so that I'd have the experience. And I don't know who to thank because I never got to find out who they were, but I really appreciate it. It was one of the highlights of my athletic career.
Well, what's really cool about all the things you're describing is it sounds so much more functional than some of the other things we do these days to get strong, to get fit. Lifting rocks, that'd be something we would all do. So here's my question though. How in the heck did you land on carnivore?
Well, that's okay. So when I was competing in the Highland Games, I had gotten up to 312 pounds, and I'm 5'11", and it was kind of this kind of misguided philosophy that mass moves mass. We want to throw these big heavy objects. We have to be heavy to kind of counterbalance them, and that's a real easy way to get real lazy and really just lose control. And you're on a road trip with your buddies every weekend, and they're all over 300 pounds. So we were all like going to these buffets and eating these huge meals, and then going and going to get ice cream afterwards, and it was ridiculous. So when I met my wife towards the end of my career, I was having blood sugar issues where I was getting like, and I don't even know how to describe it, but I'm sure it was some form of pre-diabetes where my blood sugar would just completely tank. I'm guessing what would happen was I would have some form of sugar, carbohydrate, my insulin would turn on, and then I would be like almost delusional, sweating and exhausted and really just it was horrible. So now this is before I'd heard the term keto, before carnivore, before Dr. Baker came out with carnivore or anything. So I just decided I got to do something about this. So I figured, well, sugar's got to be causing this, and carbohydrates have something to do with sugar and turn into sugar in your bloodstream. So let's just cut all the carbs and sugar out of my diet. And I did that in 2012. And within a year, I went from 312 pounds down to 260 pounds. And then I happened to hear about Sean Baker, who just happened to be a masters competitor in Highland Games. And I started looking into Sean through Twitter and everything. And I said, well, I'm just going to try this carnivore thing like he's doing. So I tried it, started, and then like soon after he got on the Joe Rogan show and just exploded. But, I was like, I'm watching him on the Joe Rogan show going, yeah, that's everything I'm experiencing. I feel great. I sleep great. I have no digestive issues. I'm just as strong as I ever was, and I'm not having any problems with my athletic ability. I just look a lot better and feel a lot better. So I just jumped on carnivore and just never got off.
So even with you must have had a pretty great metabolism with your constant muscle building, you're working out, but even with that, the carbs and the processed foods were
Yeah,
affecting your performance.
yeah. And I'm sure you know this. You don't know how bad you feel until you're feeling good, and then you get sidetracked. So I'll never forget. I had been carnivore for probably almost a year, and did Thanksgiving with my in-laws and had some of my mother-in-law's stuffing. And literally the next day I was like, oh my God. And that was it. After that, I felt like such garbage the next day that I never went back and never tried it again. And you don't know how good you feel until you do something like that. Then you realize, wow, this is fantastic. I don't know why everyone doesn't do this.
So what does a day of eating look like for you?
So I do the OMOD, the warrior diet, one meal a day. That started in 2019, I believe. So really, breakfast is black coffee, and I eat every night. I just finished dinner, so I eat every night about 6 o'clock p.m. I eat as much as I want, and that's really it. But uh, my day of eating is usually steak and eggs, or two big giant steaks, and that's pretty much it. I'll have usually some goat kefir at night right before I go to bed. But that's pretty much it. And I just burn fat all day long, and I have no problems with hunger pains or anything like that during the day. Now, what and I had this discussion with a friend of mine about eating one meal a day, and I still have that thing in my head, like I'm a 300-pound athlete. So if you allow me to eat as much as I want 3 meals a day, I will eat as much as I possibly can 3 meals a day. By eating once a day, I don't count calories. I don't restrict myself. But when I'm full, I'm full, and it just seems to work out for me.
Amazing. So you're working out fasted every day. Do you work
Every
out
single
every
day.
day still? Because
Yeah.
could you tell us a little bit about this StrongFirst? Because I was just learning about how amazing this is.
Yeah. So StrongFirst is the certification from Pavel Totsulin. For those of you who don't know Pavel was a uh, they don't call him that. He was basically the strength and conditioning coach for the Soviet Spetsnaz paratroopers. Came to the United States and brought the kettlebell to the United States. So, or I should say, brought it back. But the kettlebell craze in this country right now is all due to Pavel. He brought him here. So, if you can go to your local Target and buy a kettlebell, that's because of Pavel. He brought those back. And StrongFirst is his certification. I used to run a podcast myself years ago, and I had on a gentleman by the name of Pavel Masek, different Pavel, and I was so impressed with Pavel's professionalism and knowledge, and he was just an amazing human being. And at the end of our conversation when we were off air, he said, you should really look into StrongFirst, and I'd love to have you as a brother one of these days. And I looked into it, and I said, well, I'll give this a try, and took my what's called the SFG1, which is the first level kettlebell certification. I took that, and it's a 3-day certification, 8 hours a day for 3 days. And when I was done, I got into the car. My wife was driving us back to the hotel, and I said, I'll never do another one of those again. And the next day, I signed up for the other 3 certifications. And within a year, I'd become what's called StrongFirst Elite, which means you were able to pass all the certifications, and you got the elite status. So you have kettlebell 1, strong SFG1, which is the Russian word for kettlebell is gira. So it's SFG 1, SFG 2, SFL, which is the weightlifting, or the powerlifting certification, where you learn bench, squat, deadlift, military press. And then finally, the hardest one for me was the body weight certification, where you had to do pistol squats, one arm push-ups, pull-ups, that kind of stuff. And that was not my best one, but I waited until the last to get that one. But it's very well rounded. It's the only certification program where you actually have to be in shape to be a trainer. And we take a lot of pride in that, because when you go to a StrongFirst event, I was at one in October in Phoenix. It was for just StrongFirst instructors, and every single person in there is just a heavy hitter. They're all in shape. They all are training. No matter what their age, they all look fantastic. They all are just very big into their health, and it's not one of these things where you take a written test and you get to be a personal trainer. You have to walk the walk and really know your stuff as well.
So are you doing any competing today?
No, I'm done. And I tried getting on the Masters circuit, and I actually competed in the Masters World Championships. But and there's people out there who are going to understand this. When I was a pro athlete, I had these personal best in each event. And when I came back with a master, I just didn't throw at that level. And it was very difficult for me to go out and see how my throws had deteriorated just due to age. And I was still a very high level masters competitor, but when you're throwing that same weight and you used to throw at 86 feet and now you're throwing at 72 feet, it's just kind of, it screws with your head a little bit. I just couldn't get into it like I used to.
Okay, so you're done competing,
Yeah.
and now you're helping other people become strong, and you guys own your own gym, right? Could you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
Yeah, we opened Blind Dog in 2012, my wife and I. So my wife was a CrossFit regional competitor, and I had been a strength coach since '96. And so we originally opened up as a CrossFit box. I was not happy with anything as far as CrossFit was concerned. Is not the program itself, but just I'm not a I don't comply well with authority, and being under a company like that just didn't sit well with me. So we we lasted about a year and a half with CrossFit, and then just went our own route and did things our own way. So now um, we are in Vermilion, Ohio, and what we do is we do personal training with people, and I work with all the people, all the adults basically, and then I've got another gentleman at the gym who works with all the teenage athletes, and people who want to run fast and jump high and that kind of stuff. But the vast majority of people I work with are on average 40-year-old people who just want to get in shape and look better and feel better. And one of the coolest things that happened, and I kind of let COVID have most of the credit for this, but before COVID, what I had was people coming in, and it was like 90% of the people were like, "I have a wedding in 2 months. I need to get into this dress," and that was really boring. And it just, you always knew that was a short-term person who wasn't interested in really, they just wanted to lose weight. Now what I get after COVID is I need to be stronger. I need to be more resilient. I need to lose weight, but I need to build muscle. And that's just right up our alley. And I love that. And that's probably like 90% of our clientele right now. And that's what I do every day. It's great.
When I was on The Biggest Loser, it was all about losing weight. And yeah, we were working out, but we had it a little bit backwards. So we were told that exercise is how you lose weight. And when you watch the show, they have these last chance workouts, like you're going to lose the last 5 pounds in this one workout,
Yeah.
which is not what working out
No.
is about at all. Right?
No, yeah. I was trying to my normal walking around weight is about 200 pounds. And I had kind of challenged myself at the age of 50 that I was going to deadlift 3 times my body weight. So what I did was I just tried to see how much weight I could lose the week I was going to do that lift. And I went from 200 pounds down to 180 pounds. Now, I was 180 pounds for maybe 4 hours, and then my weight started coming back on, and it was horrible. I did a bunch of cardio. I jumped in the sauna. I was nothing healthy about that, right? So we could take anybody and make them lose 20 pounds, but to be able to rework your body in a way that you've lost fat, you've gained muscle, you look better in your clothes, you feel more secure when you're, walking a dark alley at night, or, just you feel like you're not scared when cold and flu season comes around. Those are the big
Mm.
things that we need to focus on, is instead of being a size, 2 or whatever. I think one of the things that CrossFit, I think, did for people that I do give them a lot of credit for was they gave us another example of what beautiful women can look like. And you can be athletic, and you can be a little bit muscular. And, like, women are so afraid to be muscular, and they're all terrified when they come to me, that they're going to get super jacked. And I'm always like, and I just have to kind of get them through. And then all of a sudden, 4 months into this, you're like, oh, I can see arm muscles. How cool is this? And it's like, what happened to the lady who didn't want to get jacked? But CrossFit kind of gave us a look at what women could look like when they're actually healthy and strong. So I give them a lot of credit for that. And yeah, I mean, if your goal is to lose a lot of weight, more power to you. But I'd rather see you healthy and strong.
One thing that's been so cool, and maybe you've seen this in practice even with yourself, is So I've been doing carnivore and the weight has been slower to come off. But
Hmm.
I've been doing body scans and it was actually fat that was lost instead of
Yeah.
muscle,
Yeah.
where it seems like if you're restricting, maybe you're not even working out. Maybe I had surgery at one point and that didn't work well for me. Maybe you're taking shots. There's so many different things here. And instead of losing the fat, people are losing muscle, and then they just turn into a smaller version of themselves, and
Yeah.
then they go, "I still don't like this. I guess I gotta lose 20 more pounds."
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing with like the Ozempic, right? I just heard Peter Attia give an interview the other day where he talked about, ideally when you start to lose weight, you want to lose, 2/3 in fat, and you will lose a little bit of lean body mass, but you want to lose a majority of the fat. And with like the Ozempic, that's kind of being turned on its head, where you're losing a lot of lean body mass, which is so not healthy. And I've seen that. I have people who come into my gym who, they took Ozempic, and even though that they were progressing well, they take the Ozempic and then they just lose all that strength and all that muscle tone that we built. And I get really upset with the doctors. Like, this person was actually doing it right. It was just taking the normal amount of time through exercise and diet to do it, and you put them on this drug, you let them talk you into this, and now you have a less healthy person who's just lighter. And that's
Yeah.
that's really terrifying to me that this is a thing. I mean, I tell people all the time, if this came in a pill, I'd just sell you pills. It would be super easy for me. I wouldn't have to write your workouts or deal with your anxiety. I just hand you a pill. It's never going to work that way.
Yeah, so I had gastric bypass and it actually killed my metabolism because I was eating so few calories and I was still working out. I was training for half marathons. I was doing no strength training,
Yeah.
just half marathon training and eating my 900 to 1200 calories of perfectly portioned food. And it killed my metabolism. It didn't solve my food addiction, my
Yeah.
relationship with food. It
Yeah.
didn't resolve any metabolic issues I was having. All it did was chop up my body. I'm quite horrified these days, to be honest. And then you fall into this trap. And I didn't know about the trap until carnivore because the people in this community are so smart and they start teaching you. So you've lost all this weight, but you've also lost all this muscle. And now not only is your metabolism slowing down because it's catching on to the fact that you've been restricting the food,
Yeah.
but also you have less muscle to burn those calories.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So, in your plan, when you're helping people in the gym, do you instruct them to eat more meat? What is your plan for people to help them get healthier and stronger?
Yeah. So first, what we do is when I get a new client in the gym, it's like trying to, like coax a squirrel over to come take a nut out of your hand. If you make any sudden movements, they run for the hills, right? So you're just kind of
Yes.
gently bringing them in. So we start with the working out, and oh, you're getting here 2 times a week. That's great. Probably not, but we'll start with 2 times a week, and then bump you up. And when they're ready, they'll almost always come to me with the diet question, because I try not to throw it at them real fast. And then, especially with women, but everybody, this is a really easy one, is I just tell them to increase your protein. And I'm not a big calorie counter or macro counter, but I'll say, hey, track your protein for this week, and just let's see how much you're taking in. And and then it's always way less than they think they're taking in. And then I'll just say, hey, let's this week try to increase your protein. So instead of having 2 eggs for breakfast and toast, get rid of the toast and let's try just having 4 eggs. And that, a lot of times, if they do it, is a very easy way to get them to cut, maybe not to go carnivore, but to at least cut the crap out of their diets. I have a woman who I've been training for a decade, and I love her. She's one of the smartest ladies. She's a judge here in the county. Just a wonderful human being in general, and we fight constantly about everything. And it took her a better part of a decade to switch from a vegan diet to try carnivore.
Wow.
Yeah, she tried it. I'll give you 30 days. And she gave me 30 days, and afterwards she's like, "You're right. She hated to admit it, but she admitted I was right finally, and that was just like this, lights coming on in the sky moment. But yeah, I think for most people, just by increasing your protein intake is going to be a huge eye opener for you, and then it's after that it's just a very short bridge to getting rid of the rest of the crap in your diet. But um, the other thing you need to do with people is just open their eyes to the fact that, I know this sounds a little hyperbolic, but everything you find in your grocery store is poison. It just is. Everything in there is poison. It's not an exaggeration to say that.
Even the organic vegetables.
Yeah, it's so it's such a scam, and the food pyramid's a scam, and um, it'll send you down rabbit holes of every conspiracy theory. But they've just been lying. They really just screwed these baby boomers over so bad with their diets, and that's why they're so unhealthy. And us Generation X people, some of us have woken up, but there's still a good percentage of us that just ate crap our whole lives, and they're not going to change. So just go into the grocery store knowing that everything in there is trying to kill you, and then meat, steak, and eggs becomes a very wise alternative to that.
How does your wife eat?
She's very healthy, is not carnivore, but is very aware of the poison aspect of food. You won't find a seed oil in our house. She will eat, a little bit of meat, a little bit of vegetables. It irritates me. It irritates everybody. But she looks fantastic, and will eat a cupcake, a few times a week.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a pain in the ass.
She's incredibly metabolically blessed.
Yeah, she really is. She's been an athlete her whole life, but she gets it. She was really a driving force in getting me to get rid of carbohydrates and sugar. She's a nurse and understands that stuff. And when we first met, I was very heavy, and she was very instrumental in getting me to lose the weight and get healthier. And we have a son who's an athlete as well, and it's tough with kids, as I'm sure but for a 19-year-old kid, he eats pretty well. So it's a family affair for sure.
What kind of events does he do? Is he also a strongman
He
or
is on.
StrongFirst?
Oh, no, he's 19. He is a hammer thrower he's on scholarship at Ashland University in Ohio, which is one of the top track and field programs in the country. And we have a long connection to Ashland University, so it was kind of written in the stars that he would go there. And I don't think there was any thoughts to deviating from that plan. He grew up Ashland, and he's at Ashland. So
Awesome. Okay, so who do you follow people? Is there anyone you follow to stay inspired, and who are they?
yeah, that's a great question. A lot of the StrongFirst people, Pavel Masic, like I mentioned earlier, another gentleman by the name of Fabio Zonin from Italy is very inspirational. But I follow Sean Baker. I follow Sal Palladino. I like his take on carnivore or animal based, I guess he would call his stuff. But there's a ton of people out there that I like. But and a lot of people within StrongFirst. I'm trying to think of who else I follow through there. Is it Dr. Chaffee? Was that
Dr. Anthony Chafee?
Yeah, he's very good. I like his stuff, and then there's other people who I can't think of names right off the top of my head, but there's a ton of people out there. There's so many. Social media is such a blessing and a curse, and if you use it correctly, you can learn so much and just get yourself an education. And really, nutritionally, you could be more educated than 99% of the doctors you'll see just following them on Instagram or listening to podcasts. That old adage of don't confuse your Google search with my medical degree is really aged poorly, because there is so much information out there if you want to learn.
You know, there's so many there's so many blessings from the bad virus.
Yeah,
And one of them for me was just starting to question all of the healthcare that I was receiving.
yeah.
It's interesting that your wife is a nurse. How has she navigated this system and how everything is going?
So it's it it was tough, um, because um, she works for a hospital, um, and she knows so many doctors that are fantastic at what they do. So she works in oncology, and she's a chief nurse, so she's not like on the floor, but she's more of a manager. But she works with all these really brilliant doctors. And look, I'm sure if I had cancer, I would want to go to these doctors for help. I'm not at that level, but I'm not going to go to them for medical or health advice. I think you're right. With COVID, we learned that not only are a lot of doctors not as infallible as we would hope they were, but a lot of medical systems are just downright corrupt and you can't trust them. And that's horrible to have to say, but um, when we were going through this, it was very difficult because she's going to the hospital every day and dealing with COVID on the front ranks. And I'm sitting at home because my gym has been shut down, and I'm
Mhm.
listening to podcasts and I'm reading periodicals and trying to do research on my own. And I'm just getting madder and madder and madder because the people that I trust are now saying, this all sounds a little BS to me. These wearing masks don't seem to work the way they're saying they work. I'm not sure. When Dr. Robert Malone came out about the against the vaccine, and he was one of the people who founded the vaccine, I was like, are we not going to listen to this guy? So I, I was uh, I was adamant about not taking the vaccine. My wife took it. She didn't have much of a choice. She had to take it to the hospital, but I didn't take it. My son didn't take it. Um, and it's never been something I regretted. That's for sure. I'm very nervous to see what's going to come down the pipe. I hope nothing, but the amount of hate and vitriol people took for not getting vaccinated, um, was amazing. I just have never seen anything like that. But yeah, I think COVID opened a lot of our eyes to you better, number one, be willing to do your own research. You better
Mhm.
you better realize you need to be invested in your own health care. You can't just go to a doctor and say, help me, and just listen to everything because they've got 15 minutes with you. They don't know you. I go every year uh, to get a physical with my doctor, and I go in, and 10 minutes out of that 20-minute visit is her asking me questions because like her husband is interested in the stuff I do. So she like asks, so it's almost like, okay, here's your little test. Okay, now tell me about carnivore. And so doctors are humans, and they're very busy. And my advice to everyone is be smart, and there's so many resources out there, and just do your own research, and do what's best for you and what you feel is right for your body.
I think it was a great warning to us all that our food system's a little bit more fragile than we thought it was. We've
Wow.
always had food. Now
Yeah.
we need to be more serious about our food supply,
Yep.
our health care. We need to take that more into our hands. Our community, I was taken for granted that I could see people.
Yeah.
And now community means so much to me. There's just so many lessons and blessings, even though it was such an awful time.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And all those things that we learned from there, and hopefully people learn stuff. I know I did. It sounds like you did, and there's so many lessons to be learned. And you know, just be a little bit skeptical too.
Yeah, as
Don't
Courtney Luna says, question everything.
question
Eat meat,
everything.
question everything.
And for me being who I am, I drove my poor wife just insane because she would come home and I would be on some libertarian rant about, how this is, un-American that they shut down these businesses and we have to find out from our governor if we can leave the house or not. And I was just so irritated, but we made it through, and most of
Yeah.
us made it
Well,
through, and hopefully
at
it doesn't
least you
happen again.
were eating meat the whole time.
I
So your
was.
mental health was probably a lot better than most of America. I know I personally being cooped up, eating my keto foods that I thought were so healthy.
Yeah.
Turned out they weren't. I was going nuts.
Yeah, I have a very good relationship with my local farmers and ranchers here, so I don't even
Yeah.
buy food from the grocery store. So when that all happened, I have in this room where I'm doing this podcast, I've got 3 freezers full of meat, and I get my eggs from
Amazing.
my next door neighbor or lady at the gym, and yeah, it was. Yeah, for people having to go to the grocery store and deal with that, it's rough. I give anybody credit no matter how they got through it, as long as they got through it, and good on them.
Hopefully we can all unite and get stronger somehow because it did kind of show how divided we are, and hopefully there can be some common ground somewhere. But I do have some more questions about being strong. I've heard some people work out, like, honestly, it feels good to me to do a pretty, like, a 5 things, a certain 5 exercises 3 times 12 times a day. And then Tuesday, Thursdays, I do sit-ups, push-ups, crunches,
Yeah,
plank type of thing. So I'm doing it every day a little bit, and I saw some progress. The reason we were doing little is because I am chronically ill and I'm working on that. So if I do too much, it's
right.
counterproductive for me. But I've heard other people do slow burn and they only do it once or twice a week and they say that's it. So could you tell us a little bit more about the difference between the two ways and what do you suggest?
So number one, everything works. So 50 years on this planet, the thing that's going to work best for you is the thing that works best for you. If you're into swinging kettlebells and lifting barbells, and you're really going to want to do that every day, then that's what you should absolutely do. If you're into cardio drumming and Zumba, I don't know if they still do Zumba. I'm showing my age a little bit, but that's what you should do. It's so individual, and everyone is so different that when I competed, I lifted 4 days a week. Now that I'm not lifting, I lift 6 to 7 days a week. I had friends who, when I competed, would lift 1 day a week. It's so different for everybody. I don't think you can ever go wrong with just getting stronger. I think more and more of the research will tell you that the best and fastest way to change your body is to work out with weights, and then do cardio for your heart health, basically. But don't use it as we talked earlier about you training for those half marathons and just hitting that cardio and hitting that cardio. It's very difficult on your body, and it's very hard to sustain. But let's say you start lifting weights and you're just lifting 3 times a week or 2 times a week, and you're recovering pretty well from that. So you try 4 and you're still doing pretty well. And then you try 5 and the floor falls out from underneath you. Well, then, I would stick with that 4 days a week. I would stick with doing the things that you enjoy doing. You really can't go too wrong. Being a personal trainer myself, you don't need a personal trainer. There's plenty of resources out there that you can help. And I'll tell you right now, feel free. I answer any messages online. So I get a lot of messages, but this isn't. I'm not in the Bering Sea pulling crab traps. This is not a hard job. So I answer every message you have. So if people have questions about strength training, or anything, just shoot me a message. I'll get to them. But yeah, I think whatever, if that's your workout program and you're getting some results from that, then you should definitely stick with it, and stick with it until it stops working, and then try something new. But yeah, just everything works. You can't go wrong. Just get up and move.
I love that. Some people hoo-hoo these fitness
Yeah.
classes, and some people feel amazing in
Yeah.
fitness classes.
Yep. Yeah. You
In
know,
fitness class for 5 years, maybe it's a more social thing,
well, and that helps
but if
too,
that
right?
makes you feel great, then that's what
Yeah.
we should do.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that would be my
Amazing.
advice. You know, StrongFirst is about body weight exercises, barbell exercises, and kettlebell exercises. But there's a whole realm of things outside of that you can do as well. But you don't need uh, super expensive gym memberships. You don't need super fancy equipment. If someone's listening to this and they're sedentary right now, get up and start walking. Go for a walk right now. I tell people all the time, if you lift weights and go for a walk every day, you are literally bulletproof. You are going to be so far ahead of everybody. It'll just, you'll blow people's mind in 6 months if you start doing that.
Oh, yes. Okay. You mentioned that we should be eating more protein. Is that any protein, or are there specific proteins you lean towards? Like,
I,
can I use soy protein shakes?
I wouldn't. Um, uh, Soy
Quest
is another
bars?
thing. Well, yeah. See, I wouldn't. Me personally. Now, are there worse things you could be doing for yourself? Absolutely. I would try to stay with the lean protein sources. You cannot go wrong with red meat and eggs, but chicken's great too. Pork, lamb. I like to have like one ingredient in my food. So there's steak in my steak, there's eggs in my eggs. I try not to eat things that people have had their fingers in, so like the protein bars, I'm not a fan of. They also have a lot of sugar alcohols in them, some of those, and that'll wreak havoc with your digestive system. And I am a firm believer that we were put on this planet, 300,000 years ago, and probably the way we were living back then was the way to go. So, we didn't wake up and have breakfast and then lunch and then dinner. We would spend all day hunting, and then hopefully we found a good meal at the end of the day. And that would be some kind of kill we made. I'm of European descent, so my ancestors would have been tracking game across the tundra for the majority of the season. And then in the summer, maybe some fruit and honey would be available to them, but the majority of what they were eating was, animal proteins. I'm not the medical guy. There's enough research on soy and its mimicking of estrogen that kind of freaks me out a little bit. So I stay away from that. I also stay away from protein shakes and things like that. I would rather eat something that looks more like food to my ancestors than that.
Yeah, and there's so much more to it. Like even your jaw structure when you're
Yes.
chewing versus these things that are just melting in our mouth and we don't have to chew anything. And you can see the structure of people's faces changing. Our tooth health is changing. Our bodies, our disease is changing. Yeah,
I
I
two
completely agree.
women, two women in my gym that are currently pregnant, and I told them, I said, I'm going to have a class. It's going to cost you $600 for 3 hours, and I'm going to go over all, totally just screwing with them. But I sent them all this stuff about uh, um, taking the pacifiers that most people put fruit in, like the mesh pacifier,
Hmm.
and just putting a hunk of meat in there and letting them suck on that juices. And like a really interesting thing that's not carnivore, but like when my son was born, our OB wasn't there, so we had a different doctor, and he was Eastern European. I don't know if he was Russian or Ukrainian or Belarusian, but we went in there and he said, look, this baby is healthy. You take him outside as soon as possible. And it was cold outside.
Oh.
And he said, you get him outside, you get him out in the cold, and he'll be super healthy the rest of his life. And we did. We took him out and let him get cold and and this kid, I swear to you, he is impervious to cold weather. Like it doesn't bother him at all. And he doesn't get sick, and he's just a very healthy kid. And I credit it back to that doctor who was of Eastern European descent, and that's the way they did it with the children over there in Russia, and it was just a hardier breed. But I think we things like you were talking about with the jaw, our jaws have changed, our tooth structure has changed, and a lot of that is because of that soft food and soft living. It's never going to be good for your kids.
And it's not as nutritious as we think it is.
No,
It's
no.
it's not bioavailable to us. So we're getting less nutrition, less brain health, less. You just brought up the greatest thing about the sun, because so many of our babies have jaundice, and it's interesting that our babies need sun to
Yeah.
be healthy. They really, really do. And yet as adults, we're all afraid of the sun. But
I
it
go
just
out,
goes to show we need the sun.
yes. I go out every day after my lifting. I have a very, some people say it's very monastic, but I enjoy my life. So I come home from my morning gym sessions. I come down to my man cave down here. I turn the sauna on. I do my weightlifting workout, and then I take the shirt off. I already have the shoes off. So I'm in there. I just go outside in a pair of shorts and a weight vest, and I just walk around my property. We have a large property here, and I walk around that for a half hour and just get the sun on my skin and the bare feet against the ground, and get that grounding and get that sun exposure. And then I come in and do my sauna and my cold showers. But it sunlight is so important. That's why people get so depressed during the winter. They get that seasonal depression. They're not getting the sunlight. We're here in
Mhm.
Ohio, so we get it when we can. And even during the winter, if there's sun out there, I want to be out getting it on me. There's a reason why cats lay in the sun like that and bask in it.
Yes.
They're smart.
And turtles and
Yeah.
snakes and dogs, they all love to just sit and sunbathe.
Here's a good thing for people, and I had heard this and tried it. So when I cut seed oils out of my diet, and this has been years, but when I did that, and please take this anecdotally, I am not a doctor, but I stopped having to use sunscreen. I mean, we just went to Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida. It was 95 degrees every day and sun shining, and I never put a drop of sunscreen on me the whole time. I really think that the seed oils in your diet and the products you put on your skin are what is causing people to burn so easily. Now, my son's a redhead; he's different, but if you don't have a problem with that, I really just suggest you get that stuff out of your life. Get the seed oils out of your life. Get rid of the body creams and start using beef tallow, and I think you'll be happy with being out in the sun a lot happier.
I am right there with you. I used to be a burner, bad.
Yeah,
And now every day I try to walk in the sun to like
yeah.
reduce my inflammation. It calms my hormones. I swear, it calms my mood. It calms everything to just be outside, breathe that fresh air, and get that sun, even through the clouds. So I
I
love
couldn't
all
agree
of it.
more.
So eat some meat,
Yeah.
lift something,
Yep.
walk, get some sun. Am I missing anything?
I really think make sure you sleep. Make sure you sleep good, and
Yes.
if I tell people this all the time, I will change your whole life in 90 days, and that's really my recommendation. High protein diet of some kind. Lift weights regularly. Walk in the outdoors in the sun, and then get really good sleep at night, and you will be a completely different person in 90 days. It's not hard. It doesn't take up your whole life, and it's you don't need a lot of money. The sun is free, the outside is free, kettlebells are super cheap. There's nothing to it.
Well, Mark, I really appreciate all the time that you've given me today and for sharing your story. If anybody wants to follow you, could you tell us your handle on Instagram?
Yeah, I'm at Valenti 100. So it's at V as in Victor, ALENTI 100. And if you want to see what the latest book I'm reading is, or see my one or two workouts for the week, it's not super exciting, but like I said, I do answer all questions on there. I've got like 18,000 followers, and I still can't figure out why. It's, if you're into that, into seeing some weightlifting and some good reading material, and feel free to reach out to me. Like I said, I answer all questions. So
Well, thank you again. And everybody, thank you for tuning in today. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share. Bye.